What a massive race. What a race for the Ferrari. They really nicked it. They did a very beautiful job and they were able to get maximum points out of the race. Carlos Sainz, congratulations to Carlos Sainz. He was the winner of it all. From the beginning of the race to the end of the race, he was more composed. He had more composure. He was able to understand what he needs to do for him to get into the race and also race and win the race the way he did. And to his teammate, Charles Leclerc, good one. And to McLaren, what a good second place to still keep themselves in the battle. Eking away 11 points from Red Bull, Max Verstappen's points, in which Red Bull were trying to make the race difficult for them, but they were able to eke some points away and they were able to save their own day and save their own race. So Fernando Alonso, wow, what a sorry case on his 400 Grand Prix at DNF. Likewise on his 300 Grand Prix, while he was still racing for McLaren, he had DNF also. He did a very good job racing 400 races in F1. What a good thing he's doing, even at his age, especially for the Aston Martin team presently, even when they are not in a championship winning car. Ferrari, they had a plan, kicked on the plan, and they did a very good thing on their plan. Mercedes have messed up their whole race with upgrades and upgrades, and some of these upgrades were not really working, especially the last upgrade they brought. Meanwhile, Ferrari had done a good job. They waited patiently to bring upgrades that worked in Monza. They waited through the middle of the season. They were not rushed. People were asking, when are you bringing the upgrades? They said, don't worry, we are bringing upgrades. They kept on eking points, taking some decent points away from races, not lagging behind, staying very close to McLaren and Mercedes, then eking some points away, and really they brought their upgrades. The upgrades were working fine, brought some few more bits, and voila, this is the car. It's doing a very beautiful job. Meanwhile, Mercedes keeps bringing upgrades, especially the present one is not working, and it shows where they really are. George Russell did a pretty decent job for Mercedes, and what was the decent job? He used the Silverstone upgrade in Austin, so coming to Mexico, he crashed the Silverstone upgrade again. They now had to revert to the Miami upgrade on his car. Now with the Miami upgrade this weekend, it still shows that upgrade still has some decency. Meanwhile, this upgrade is still not really on par with, and if they have upgrades that is not really doing well, I think looking at the data, they will be able to sort that issue out. But the issues they need to sort out, can they sort it out in the next 2-3 days? I'm not sure, because George Russell will be getting back his upgrades in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Now, George Russell has been saying the upgrade looks great on Lewis Hamilton's car. Those upgrades should be better. Will he be right? Will he be wrong? What will Mercedes do? Will they take the learnings from these two races and try and revert back or do something different with the upgrade? I don't know yet. But will they put the two cars on the same upgrade and put them to test race? If that is what they will do, I think we would see much if it is Lewis Hamilton that is old or that is not making good deal with the upgrades, or it is the upgrades themselves. But let's see how they will be able to pull all this out in 7 days time. This will be a very complete analysis. I will show you what really happened, what went wrong, and how the race pans out. Beautiful race. Carlos Sainz started beautifully, but Max Verstappen knew what would happen, so all he needs to do is to stay ahead of the Ferrari, because if he can stay ahead of the Ferrari before Lando Norris could catch him back, Lando Norris might possibly damage his tire. So he was able to bully Carlos Sainz into turn 1, got the P1 position, and started there. Unfortunately, there was an accident behind that was involving Yuki Tsunoda and Alex Albon. Alex Albon was squeezed into a tight frame by Pierre Gasly on his right hand side, while there was nowhere for him to go or turn to, jinking the steering a little bit. Yuki Tsunoda turned into him, and that was the end of the race for Yuki Tsunoda, and that also pulled his tire out. So the yellow flag came out. For 4 or 5 laps, the cars were behind the safety car, which was a good call. No red flag, clear the track, clear the cars, and make sure the cars are still running to get maximum heat into the tires. My instinct told me, right like in the last video I made, that one Red Bull will be out of the race, and I said it, and that was it. And I also said, if Max Verstappen led by turn 1, he won't be in front before lap 10. The Ferrari is so fast, they were able to get him by lap 8, and up he goes. Now it's now left for Max Verstappen to stay ahead of Lando Norris. But unfortunately, Max Verstappen does what Max Verstappen knows how to do best: make sure he bully his opponent. So unfortunately, Max Verstappen got 2 10-seconds penalty, and I was thinking about, why are the stewards like this in this race? Are they trying to give him penalties from other races? I don't understand. Why 2 10-seconds penalty? That was a 20-seconds penalty in the race. Wow. So getting the 20-seconds penalty is already making sure the race is not going as planned for Max Verstappen. He was able to stay ahead of Lando Norris in 3rd position for about 10 laps, but unfortunately, Lando Norris started eking up to him, and for about 7 laps, he was able to get Max Verstappen went into the pit, changed his tire from the medium tire to the hard tire, served his penalty, and came out towards the end of the pack and he was able to find his way back. But unfortunately, he did a pretty decent job. He tried coming up with the 6th position at the end of the race. That's a decent race for him, because if his teammate was ahead of him or Piastri was ahead of him, it would have been a disaster for him, because he could have ended in P7 or P8 in this race, which could have solidified Lando Norris's position in the Constructors' Championship. If he had been able to gain 5 more points, it would be like 40 points, about 30 something points behind Max Verstappen in this race. But the championship is still on between the two of them. The next 2 races will determine how far Lando Norris could do, because if Lando Norris cannot make an impact in Brazil and also in the next race, that means championship is over. But the Constructors' Championship is still open, and Red Bull now are 3rd position in the Constructors' Championship. For me, it means a lot, because if they are in 3rd position now, it means they're already having a bad season coming off it, because they started leading the championship with over 100 points now behind Ferrari. What a position in which they found themselves. I know Red Bull will blame this on Sergio Perez, and Sergio Perez will tell them, I've been telling you guys since last year that this car is rubbish. And the Red Bull team will be like, you can't tell us that, because Max Verstappen is driving the same thing and is driving the heck out of it. But the problem is, how is Max Verstappen driving this car so well that Sergio Perez is not driving it in that pace? But the only defense I can give for Sergio Perez is age. Why age? Because most of the older drivers in the paddock are not getting the best out of this generation of cars. You can look at Lewis Hamilton, you can look at Fernando Alonso. They are not getting the best out of this generation of cars. It's only meant for the young guys, because they are able to push their ground effect cars, and they are doing a very pretty decent job. So you will have that to say. Meanwhile, the Red Bull will say, hey, no, you don't say that. Why would you say you're too old enough to drive this car? As far as Max Verstappen can drive this car, you should be able to drive it. And they will be like, hell no, I'm still like 10 years older than Max Verstappen. And while I was still driving, Max Verstappen has never started driving. So that will be some cloudy judgment from the both sides of the garage. But I think Sergio Perez may not be able to retain his seat, and there will be a big commotion at the end of the season in Red Bull, because I'm just jinking this in, because if Sergio Perez loses a seat, their Mexican backer who personally backed Sergio Perez, the owner of Telcel, the richest man in Mexico, will take all his investment away from Red Bull. And will Red Bull be ready to lose that kind of huge investment in which this man is bringing? I'm not sure they want to lose it. But how will this whole thing pan out? Because he himself said that if Sergio Perez is taken out of Red Bull, not out of Red Bull and taken to VCAP, out of Red Bull at all, he's taking his investment out of Red Bull. Well, let's see how Red Bull will be able to manage this situation at the end of the season or early next year. And to Yuki Tsunoda, sorry. To Alex Albon, sorry. The collision on the straight really ended their race. And to Fernando Alonso, brake problems took him out of the race. I was unable to do or create a perfect impression or speak to his Spanish friends in Mexico at the end of the Grand Prix, because that brake really jinked him out, and that was not a good one for him. Yes, Ferrari did a pretty decent job this weekend and in the past weekend. They could have come in first and second, like I said, but coming in first and third was a good one. McLaren too are up for it. They are doing a decent job. With the job McLaren are doing is very close to what they need to do to put themselves ahead in the championship. And I think Piastri needs to also buckle up to make sure the competition is stiffer, because we want to see this kind of competition all through the season. And this is a decent job these drivers are doing. Now to George and Lewis, I think Mercedes really did a good job. Tell the drivers to race and also to give themselves space in which they will be able to gain a lot of data. But at a particular point in time, I think Mercedes are compromising their race, because there are points in time in which I think they could have allowed George to allow Lewis pass, so that George can save some tire, save some engine, while they can concentrate on their races. Because if they have lost those positions and Verstappen was able to gain on them, it would have been a disaster for them. But good one, the two drivers raced very well and they got enough data they could have gotten. And also I think the reason why Mercedes are doing this is they don't want to compromise or break George Russell's spirit, because he will be the team leader from next year and Lewis Hamilton is going. So if they keep telling him to allow Lewis pass, it will be like breaking his mind or breaking his spirit. So I also feel for them in that aspect, but they need to look at it, because they can't keep wasting engine power while fighting or wasting decent points while fighting. That's what I think. Max and Lando, twice Max Verstappen got penalty, and I'll say this, those penalties are well deserved. The first one was on turn 8. He dive bombed into Lando Norris. He could have taken him out, and the two of them were off the track, and that was forcing another driver off the track. The second penalty was for the first one he did, in which leaving the track and gaining advantage. And I think he himself knows, but I just think those 10 seconds penalty were just too much. It could have been a 5 seconds and a 10-second penalty. But well, that was why I said maybe they were giving him double penalties for the things he had not done or the things he will do in the future. At this point, these are things I think Lando Norris and McLaren should do, because they can afford to take out Max Max Verstappen with Piastri in 2 races and win those races and get back into championship. But all Max Verstappen needs to do is make sure till the end of the season is coming in between 2nd and 5th position and he secures his title. But the moment he keeps taking penalties, I'm not seeing him really laying good examples or really trying to come up good points at the end of the season, because if he keeps eking penalties upon penalties, in the next race if he takes penalties and that penalty is taken back, it might be difficult for him to come in 6th or even 8th in the next race. And if Lando Norris can come home with good 15 points ahead of him in the next race, that still leaves the championship open, and I think that is not what Max Verstappen should want. I think what he should be looking at right now is how to make sure he's getting the same points rather than getting dangerous penalties. That is what Red Bull needs to focus on. And to Sergio Perez, he does not know why he was given 5-second penalty. We quickly went into the pit. The reason why he was given the 5-second penalty was of his false start. It was a little bit over the line where he was meant to stop for starting the race. That was why he was given the 5-second penalty. And also his battle with Liam Lawson, I think it was a dangerous battle and both of them were at fault. After Liam Lawson was able to overtake him, he gave him a middle finger. I think Liam Lawson does not need that. If he's even trying to take his seat next year, it'd be too rude to somebody of Sergio Perez's stature and caliber. I think he's making a mistake because he's leading himself astray if he's doing that to somebody that is ahead of him. So I think they both had a good race, but at the point they allowed it to get into their head that they are racing for a seat in which Perez is presently, and that caused Perez a damage in which he could not recover from, and that's where he ended the race in 17th position. And that is a sorry case for him. He was really just ahead of Zhou Guanyu in a very bad Sauber. Not a good one for him. I think Max Verstappen is purposefully giving Ferrari points so as to take points away from Lando Norris from it. And if they keep going like that, they are losing the World Constructors Championship. I mean the Red Bull. This will be a bad thing for them leading both championships at the beginning of the season. Now already lost one and possibly losing the second one. And they've lost that one tremendously. 2 teams ahead of them. I mean McLaren and Ferrari are really ahead of them and they cannot get back. So they need to do something about that also. And to Sainz and Charles Leclerc, great race for them, wonderful race, and kudos to the team. And to Mercedes engine, maybe Aston Martin won't regret now, but by 2027 I think Aston Martin will be regretting because they might still be like 5th or 6th in the Constructors Championship. If Mercedes engine is performing well in McLaren, performing well in Williams, they are nowhere to be found. And the Alpine team are getting the Mercedes engine and is performing also. I think Aston Martin will regret it. And I think with this Mercedes engine giving good points to McLaren and even to Mercedes that are having one of the bad designs, or should I say aerodynamics, on the grid, it shows the Mercedes engine is reliable and very good. Decent point for Aston, coming in 7th and 9th. Now they are ahead of RB, ahead of Williams in the Constructors Championship. They are whooping 6th in the Constructors Championship, leading RB and Williams, which is a great thing for that team, coming up with 2 points. And also great race for Pierre Gasly, holding the last point of the race, coming in 10th and picking up a point for his team, a team in which he will be staying till next year. That's a decent one for all the guys in the race today. But like I said, it's a good race and we are expecting a banger in Sao Paulo next week in Brazil. What a race is going to be, but the strategy will win it. I think the race is still between McLaren and Ferrari next week because those two have the best car presently on the grid and they can continue on this trajectory this season. They are already in it to win. What a race of patience, what a race of good calculation and good positioning. And to Red Bull, I believe they can do better. Will Max Verstappen win another race before the end of the season? It's not certain because that car is not looking like a car that can win another race before the end of the season. There are 4 races more to go. Let's see how it pans out. This is going to be a very interesting race. If you are missing this, you are missing a huge race. But the remaining 4 races will be a banger. It's going to be a race that you should not miss. And we're having races in Rio, Las Vegas, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi. You can't miss it. I love you. Watch out for the next video. See you soon. Ciao. Bye.